Hello boys and welcome back to a new video, and this one is about how I found myself guildless once again, probably for the last time, at least on this server in this region. More on that later. So when I created the original video, which was called The Truth About Guild Recruitment Problems in Burning Crusade, I decided to show my recruitment post on the Spine Shatter Discord. And at the time I said that the ideal guild would clear tier 5 content in one evening, and that although I can raid more, I don't want to. That it would have a main raid and an alt raid or a couple of splits. That it would use soft reserve as a loot system. And I made a mistake here. I said loot council is fine if your tier 5 clear time is under 3 hours. This again was a mistake, more on that later. I said I would offer high attendance, full experience, not dying fires, and that I would bring orange/pink parses in the right type of raid. So let's see what happened. So I was approached by this player. We'll just call him Phoenix because, well, it's shorter, I guess. And he represented this guild, Django Unbuffed. He left a link to the logs. Pretty decent, it's all I'm going to say. They weren't great, just decent. We can go over the logs later. And he did mention, it's worth saying that this was also in 24-man. This is worth noting because it's a problem that persisted for, I think, 3 resets. As in, after I joined the guild, we could not get a full raid for, I think, 3 weeks. So I had a chat with him because I was, and I still am, very much against the idea of a loot council. There's way too much to say on the topic, but, I will try to give you the short version later on. In the meantime, I tried to explain to this guy, look, there's a bit of a problem. If you're talking about loot council, I kind of expect the kind of leadership that doesn't make mistakes, addresses issues right away, and so on. And if you look at your logs, there's this guy, there was a Shadow Priest in their raid, who is a bit of a joke, like parsing 30, 40, that sort of stuff, didn't even get the tailoring sets and so on. So he appeared in more than one log, which was a bit of a concern for me, like what's your so-called council doing if you're raiding with that sort of person, right? And he explained that, yeah, well, actually our normal ASP is in the hospital, we're not sure whether he's coming back, so we allowed someone who isn't really satisfactory to join, and so on and so forth. And what he then said was that their loot council, as mentioned, rewards performance, yes, but also attendance and preparation. That's why the Shadow Priest that I pointed to isn't considered for loot, yada yada yada. And I said, yeah, okay, these are my parses, both now and in the past. I can't promise you even 95s before seeing how the raid performs. It would be different on other classes, but I'm pretty sure I can parse fairly high. And I said, so far my only concern would be the loot council part, because I have had horrible experience with it. And if you've been watching my previous videos, you've seen my mage, for example. I finished Max Ramas with the Blackwing Lair stuff from Nefarian, like, loot council my ass, because that's just how things go with loot council. Everything I've seen in the past, I don't know, 20 years translated into actually my friends and I were getting the best stuff first, and if you don't ever get it, well, tough luck for you. And what he said was that you'll have to perform well to get in front of people for current P2 trials, but in P3 it's a blank slate where we will look at everyone's blah 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 and make sure that blah 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 blah. Anyway, he asked me, whether my preference would be Warlock main and Shadow Priest for all trades. I told him I couldn't care less, whatever he preferred. For me, both characters are treated as mains, so it wasn't an issue. So he asked me to cover Affliction, the Affliction spot, that is, because, well, that's what they needed. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll just respec back. I had respect from Affliction to Destruction, but then having been asked to do Affliction, I'm like, yeah, okay, I will respect for it. To his credit, Phoenix did send me, I think, either 50 or 100 gold for the respec. I can't remember. It doesn't really matter. Point is, he did pay for the respec, so I'm not gonna complain about that at all. I did ask him whether he was 100% sure that I would be Affliction the next day during the raid, and he said, yeah, go Affliction please. Normally you'll be Destruction, but this week is Affliction. I'm like, okay, sure. He also asked me to get TMB sorted. That's my biz. We'll talk about that in a moment. Did you create a wish list? Blah, blah. Technically, there's no rush for you this week, as obviously, being trial, I wasn't going to get anything. But, make sure you get it done. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll do it. Later that day, though, things changed. As you can see, I was asked to stick to playing Shadow Priest instead, because, well, they were planning to recruit a Shadow Priest, but that Shadow Priest was super naked, so it wouldn't have been much of an option. I'm only mentioning this to make it clear that it wasn't necessarily my idea, but I didn't say no to it either. He asked me whether I could switch from Lock to Shadow Priest, and I'm like, yeah, sure, fine, okay. And in short, that's how I ended up playing Shadow Priest. It wasn't my idea, it was just that the guild had somehow lost their Shadow Priest, some real life issues, some health issues, whatever. And although they originally recruited me as a Warlock, just before the first raid, they asked me to switch to Shadow Priest. Now, I had no problem with that, so I did it. And in my original recruitment post that you could see there, I had promised close to 100% attendance, which, as you can see, is something I have done. And I had promised orange and pink parses. And I have delivered those as well. Some of these had been ranked higher than they are now, but, they keep decaying and it is what it is. Either way, as far as I'm concerned, I delivered what I had promised. Now, one thing I should mention is that this guild is using Loot Council, and that's my biz website, also known as TMB. So upon joining, I was asked to create a list of upgrades that I would want. Now I thought, okay, this just involves putting every item you need, every slot you've got here, and an order will be decided, like your number one in the prior list for this, your number, 5, priority for this other item, and so on and so forth. In reality, though, I could only put in 5 items. Because only 5 items were accepted, I went with my, let's say, most serious upgrades. And I listed a couple of items from Vash, the chest and the ring, the wand from Solarian, the bracers from Alar, and the cloak from KT. These would be my, best upgrades. And I thought, okay, this is it. At this point, they're just going to say, okay, you're, let's say, and this is just an example, number 1 in line to get the cloak, and you're number, 5 in line to get the chest. Something like that. But that's not what happened. Instead, I was approached by this guy who is apparently the caster officer. Now, don't ask me what the point of a caster officer is, because I don't know. I imagine that 20 years ago they were responsible for helping people figure out their rotations, which add-ons to use, that sort of stuff. Nowadays, though, I have no idea of why anyone would even pretend that this is a thing, like, a caster officer, whatever the hell it is. So, after that, this caster officer or whatever asked about maybe having a chat at some point and doing the loot together, getting me prio on some items. And I'm like, oh, you mean the TMB thing? I've already created that. And he goes, yeah, it wasn't done to my liking, to be honest. I would like to get you prio on some items and lesser prio on others. That makes sense. Mostly in your benefit. Because you seem solid and we can review together, of course. So I asked, have you seen some better pieces than the ones I added? He's like, no, you'll see what I mean. Sorry, I'm also working, alt tabbing. So let's see what that actually meant. Because what it meant was that a list of priorities for loot has been created here for me eventually. Not exactly together, not reviewed in any way or anything like that. So from my list of items, 2 items made it to the list. One of them is the gkicked cloak, and another one is the one from Solarian. Now in here you can see what sort of priority I've got for these items if and when they drop. So for example, if this thing dropped, I would be the first in line to get it. Now that sounds pretty good, right? Pretty cool. Another thing I was given prio for was this Band of Alar. It wasn't really on my wish list, but it was added there. Now, if you look at them, you'll notice that these items are not exactly very contested, and the reason for it is that they lack, let's say, a secondary stat. So they do have damage and healing, but they don't have crit, they don't have hit, so not a lot of other casters would be dying to get them. Arcane mages and shadow priests are fine with it, because we've got, plus 10 to hit from talents or whatever, but this is, let's say, also good for maybe a protection paladin, maybe also good for a warlock if they can get the hit elsewhere, and if they don't need crit there, but they wouldn't normally be very contested, not compared to some other items, right? So this, for example, would be significantly more contested than this. Now, this is what has been added to my list. I've also been given prio over 2 other items: Trousers of the Astromancer and Cowl of the Grand Engineer. There's a bit of a problem with that. So this here is the same for my current gear, right? This is what I am currently using on my Shadow Priest. Right, so let's put in those 2 items, right? The Cowl of the Grand Engineer and Trousers of the Astromancer. Now, this creates a bit of a problem because you go under the hit cap. Fortunately, there's a sort of an easy fix to that. All you need to do in this case is just change the wand, add 8 hit rating there, and you're going back to 16 something. But once you sim it, you'll notice that it's below the current gear, as it were, in terms of DPS. Again, with these 2 so-called upgrades, you're getting 1397, whereas with the Spell Strike set, I'm getting 1405. The point being that in this case, I've been given prio, as it were, over 2 downgrades. That kind of throws the whole, mostly for your benefit part out the window. I think we can agree on that. So that's kind of a problem. Now, I want to make it clear that this is not me complaining about loot. It might sound like it occasionally, but it's not. You'll see what I mean in a bit. Now, since I joined the guild, I got 1 OS item, the Eye of Gruul, supposedly another one, but what happened in reality was that after I received this item, a healer in the guild asked for it because he missed the role, and I gave it to him. it was the same thing with this pattern. Not that it really matters, I got it, but then someone else wanted it. It was more important to them, so I returned it. No big deal, right? However, in terms of a clear upgrade, so far I have received this ring, and it is an upgrade. Let's make that clear. Recently, I also managed to acquire the tier 5 set. This is more like a side grade, really. It's an upgrade in certain situations and a downgrade in others. It's a bit complicated, and it's got a lot to do with specific fights and the way Shadow Priests play and so on. I won't get into that, it would be a very long video. But let's just say I got them. Now that they're less contested, these are free rolls, like, just roll for them. It has very little to do with prio. Whoever needed them as prio already got them, so now they're just going to whoever rolls higher. But in terms of clear upgrades, so far I got one item, this one. That's it. One of the other items I got, as I just showed with the sim, is a downgrade. Another one that I'm prioritized for, supposedly, is another downgrade. In addition to that, nobody else wants this shit. I don't want it, but no other customers would want it, because as you can see, it lacks a meta socket, so that means warlocks and mages don't even want to look at it, and, saying that I've got prio on this item is like, you've got prio over that fat girl in the group. Yeah, thanks. I think I'll pass. As for the wand, initially I think I had been set as number 4 in line to get it. After having a conversation with one of the people in the guild about what the fuck is this, why do I get, suppose, prio over downgrades instead of upgrades, this was bumped to number 2 for me. It now shows as me being the 3rd in line to get it, not the 2nd in line anymore. And that might have something to do with this incident. So here we are on Lurker during our last raid. He's getting ready to do his final second spout, I guess, and there's just one person getting hit here. This was a 99 parse for me, by the way, but as you can see, or as you might have been able to see, one of our hunters manages to get hit by spout. It's no big deal because Lurker was pretty much dead. What happens then, though, is that we end up going to Phantom Lord, and our tank, this druid here, dies. At which point, of course, Phantom Lord starts going around killing people. You can see a rogue tanking him, and at this point originally, go out and reset call is made. So here I am running out to reset. Now, to be fair, it's then rescinded, that call, and they go like, no, actually go in and kill him. But you can see a lot of people are already dead. And I'm like, you know what, fuck that, I'm not doing that. And the reason for which I'm not doing that is that we'd all get like a grey parse on that sort of shit, and I'm not interested in it. I would rather wipe and go again and do it right. However, a lot of other people see things differently. So what you notice here is that Phantom Lord is on, I don't know, 2%, 1.8% I think it says there, and he's coming for me. And obviously he's going to reset if he goes to the corridor. And people are going, no, go in, fade, do something so that he doesn't reset, because they are still looking to kill him. But I don't want to do that. And I don't want to do that because I'm not interested in getting a grey parse. The problem is that when you're not really getting loot priority on the stuff you want, the only reason to show up to the guild raid is to try to get a better parse. There is no other reason, like why else would I go there, right? So I don't mind that he's going to be reset, because I'd rather go again and do it right. And of course, the dude resets, and I'm perfectly happy with it. You can see I'm not fainting or anything. And at this point, guess who thinks I'm a fucking idiot? This guy who just died to spout. And I'm like, when he calls me a fucking idiot, I'm like, hey retard, maybe get hit by spout less before calling me an idiot. This was not received very well, let me put it that way. Now, that comment may have seemed a bit harsh. I know a lot of the people in younger generations, they're sort of allergic to that word, retard, and so on, but let me try to explain this. So here I am on Lurker, and I'm obviously trying to get a good parse, which is impossible, by the way, because for the first 3 raids, I think, we've not had a full raid. You can see one person's missing here, and getting a good parse for me implies getting the Wrath of Air Totem. You know, I don't really need the Totem of Wrath because I'm already hit capped. Yeah, the +3 crit is always nice, but I don't really need it. I do, however, need the Wrath of Air Totem. And as you can see, on this occasion I do have it right here. But guess what? Spout is coming and it's only telegraphed like 5 days in advance. And my Shaman gets hit, and as such the totems disappear. But surely that's not going to happen again, ever. In fact, the totem stuff seems to be a recurring theme throughout the raids. You can see I have them here on Alar, for example. But the problem with Alar is that he keeps moving between those so-called platforms, so you kind of have to move with it. And as soon as you do, well, say goodbye to totems because they're not being replaced. You can see they're missing here. And if you ever, take a look at my parses and go like, oh, well, that's not even full 99s, it's not too impressive, keep this in mind. This seems to be a recurring issue in the raid. So here we are, a different reset, a different raid, once again missing one person, right? And you know what else is missing? That's right, the totems. Because although you can see 3 of us are here on this side, where we are supposed to be, our shaman and one of the mages, they went to the other side. So the totems are somewhere behind, all the way over there, whereas we are over here. And with the majority of the players in the group being on this side, I think you can tell who is in the wrong on this one, as it were. But that's okay, because on the next raid we've got a full raid, and the spout starts, and I'm totally parsing this raid because it's a full raid. I'm not going to get fucked by not having a full raid and whatever, right? Except for spout starts, and it was telegraphed for about 5 days, and as you can see, at this point I had the Wrath of Air Totem here, but unfortunately Lurker did his insta spout thing, which isn't telegraphed 5 days in advance, and he hit the shaman in my group, which was Nocturne Narnia, so goodbye totems once again. The point of those things being that if you again ever look at my parses and you go like, well, that's not really impressive, keep that in mind. So if you think that retard comment related to spout was a bit harsh, perhaps you can see where I'm coming from now. Either way, I don't actually know whether that sort of small conflict was the cause of this thing or whether it's something else, but suddenly my priority dropped from number 2 to number 3 for the wand here. A bit unfortunate, isn't it? So, while the loot thing doesn't really matter, and this will become more apparent, shall we say, in a future video, it is a bit, let's say, unpleasant, but it doesn't really matter, not for me. The reason for it is that at the end of the day, I don't really need, a full best in slot gear or whatever in order to perform. It would be nice, but it's not necessary. At the end of the day, I am far more interested in trying to get a good parse, and that's affected more by other factors, such as, do I actually have a shaman? Is he alive? Does he place totems where they're supposed to be placed? But that sort of thing. It's less affected by what sort of gear I'm wearing. With the current gear, as you can see, I'm perfectly able to hit the orange and pink parses I mentioned I would bring to a guild and to a raid. And this has been the case throughout every raid. As far as I remember, there is one report I cannot show you, rankings on each of the raids. So this is the 1st of July. This is the 3rd of June. This is the 17th of June. This is the 24th of June. The only one I can't access is the one from the 10th of June, and that's not because I'm trying to hide it, as it were. It's just that Warcraft logs at the moment is not really allowing me to access it for whatever reason. It's showing as being in pre-crawl queue, and I'm not going to wait for 40,000 seconds in order to show every single raid, but it looked the same, as in parsing all right and so on. That being said, although I'm not particularly worried about loot, because again I can do without it, this kind of plays an important role because it has a lot to do with this video. Let's take a look at what the difference is between a guild and a guild raid and a pug, right? So with the guild, I'm going on my Shadow Priest. More than half the stuff I want, I'm not even listed for, like the chest, the ring, the priests. As for the wand, yeah, I'm supposedly number 3 in line. Keep in mind it hasn't really dropped in the last 5 raids, so you could very well read this as never. Thankfully, I have been prioritized, for my benefit of course, because the caster officer said so, for this downgrade and for this other downgrade. Alright, so again, let's take a look at what a pug looks like. So, let's see what I soft dressed here. Initially, this will show the soft dress from Serpent Shrine, and as you can see I had soft dressed the vestments from Vash, the ring from Vash, and the legs from Phantom Lord Karatres. So here we are just killing Phantom Lord, and would you believe it, the legs drop, and to make things better, 2 pairs dropped there, and there were only 2 people soft dressing them, meaning that I would get 1 by default, right? This brings us to Lady Vash, who is nice enough to actually drop another thing for us. Sadly, it was definitely not the vestments, but she did drop the ring. It takes a while for everything to show up here because our loot master and raid leader was dead here. However, you are going to see it in just a few moments, I suppose. As he is getting resurrected, he goes over the loot from Lady Vash, and let's see. As I scroll up there, you can see the ring had dropped, and I was the only person who had reserved it. As for Tempest Keep, I will show the soft dress here, because this followed, and I reserved the wand, the chest, and the shoulders. So here we are on Void River. I am not doing all that great. I've not been doing all that great throughout the raid, so forget about parsing or anything like that. And he is nice enough to drop the shoulders, and as you can see, he dropped 2 tokens, 2 hero tokens, and again only 2 people had soft reserved them, and I was one of them, meaning I would get 1. Solarian follows, and would you believe it, she dropped the wand of the Forgotten Star, and there were once again just 2 people soft reserving it, and I rolled here. I didn't think I would win because I lost every other roll against this other warlock, but on this occasion I actually won the wand. Which brings us to Keltas himself, and Keltas is also nice enough to drop 2 hero tokens. Once again, only 2 people had soft reserved them, meaning that I would get 1 of them as well. So let's go over what I won this raid, and you can see in there, you can see the chest token, you can see the pauldrons token and the leggings, and equipped you can already see the ring and the wand. This was all in the space of 1 raid, so a single raid, and I will post the logs below. So let's take a look at a slightly different thing here, and there is a point to this, trust me on that. let's take a look at the first raid I've had with this guild, and that was this one on the 3rd of June, right? And when I went here, I was still, oh Jesus Christ, I was still wearing these gloves, the tier 4 gloves. Now, they are utter shit. 30 damage, no sockets, right? Since then, I managed, let's look at the last raid, and this was on the 1st of July. We're here, right? So since then, I somehow managed to get an upgrade. And that upgrade is right here, the Macteridon gloves, which have 36 damage and 2 sockets. Now, why am I bringing this up? Well, let's take a look at it. The raid started at 5 minutes past 7, and it ended at, well, 19 minutes to 10. Supposedly, Guildless went down around 18 minutes past 9, making Serpent Shrine and Tempest Keep 2 hours and 13 minutes raid. However, after this, we went to Guildless, and this is part of every single raid. It's not a one-time thing. The reason for which we're going to Guildless is that obviously Guildless drops DST, and a lot of people want that. It's such a good item that many people want it. And even though I don't need anything from there, I am expected to go and help, right? Because it's for the good of the guild, as it were. It improves the raid DPS if someone gets a DST. The problem with that, as far as I'm concerned, is that when it's about DST, oh right, everyone head to Gruul. When it's about stuff I need, that's where things take a turn for the worse, because I got that upgrade, the gloves I mentioned, right? I got those in a pug, because we're not running Macteridon. We've not been running Macteridon. We've only been running Gruul for DST. And I have to tell you, it took me 4 resets, and I think something like 20 to 25 wipes, because, you know, clicking is hard. Clicking cubes is very hard in pugs. So yeah, it took me about 20-something wipes in pugs, not to mention how difficult it is to find a pug, because most pugs go for Gruul and Macteridon, and if you're already saved to Gruul, well, tough luck, there's no room for you, mate, right? So yeah, it's like when some people need something, we're gonna run Gruul as a guild to help them. Oh, you need something from Macteridon? Well, good luck, go pug it, bro. So that doesn't feel particularly good, right? It's like it's the sort of corporation thing. When they need someone to work overtime, oh, you know, we're all a family, we all help each other, common good, yada, yada, yada. When it's about I don't know, money, like bonus day or whatever, well, that's when the CEO gets 50 million. As for the employees, well, maybe there'll be a pizza party and they'll get 2 slices of pizza once every 3 weeks or something, but one of them is going to be a vegan pizza because, you know. Now, let's compare that with the pug, right? The pug I joined on my Warlock. And the pug started at 3 minutes past 7 and it ended at 18 minutes past 9. So it was 2 minutes longer, supposedly, right, than the raid, than the guild raid. The guild raid took 2 hours and 13 minutes. The pug took 2 hours and 15 minutes. Now, I'm not sure that's a very fair comparison, to tell you the truth, because, I mean, nobody in the pug had a Hearthstone set to Area 52, nobody had the engineering trinket to port there or anything like that, so it's not exactly a fair comparison, but let's say for the sake of saying that it would be a fair comparison. Right, but the guild raid actually took longer because it includes Gruul. This is something to keep in mind because I'm going to wrap this up with a comparison, right? Now, as everyone knows, I guess, the Football World Cup was taking place. It ended recently. And for that reason, a number of people did not sign up to the raid that we normally had on Wednesday. At least That's what I'm assuming. England was playing, I don't know, Argentina, France, someone. I've got no fucking clue and I couldn't care less. Point is, a lot of people did not sign up. And because of that, the raid was postponed. It was moved, if you want to call it that, to Tuesday. Now, on Tuesday, I was not going to be online. I wasn't going to be online because I wasn't going to be at home. So I'm like, okay, in that case, I'm not signing up for the raid on Tuesday. The other two Shadow Priests had already signed up, so I wasn't worried about it at all. And since I'm not going to sign up, I'm just going to go and pug so I don't waste the reset. But here, I've got this dude, the caster officer, who's doing things for my benefit, mostly, asking me why am I in SSC. And they're like, well, I'm not going to be online on Tuesday. Well, that kind of upset my guy because suddenly he's like, well, you know, Tuesday is an official raid day. You know that? Like, whatever. So is Wednesday as far as I'm concerned. And still people didn't sign up. So what do you want from me? I'm not going to be online on Tuesday, period. Keep in mind at this point, I had 100% attendance, right? And my performance in raids, well, I think you could see it on Warcraft logs. It was not something that is even worth discussing with anyone in the guild. So I was kind of surprised, but I'm like, yeah, well, okay, but I'm still not going to be online on Tuesday. End of story. Like, I'm not going to be at home playing. That's it. So my man goes like, I wish you good luck or best of luck or something with your future endeavors or whatever, something like that, which, come to think of it, is a bit funny. It's funny because it's the sort of thing you might expect to hear in a corporation from your manager when you're getting fired for whatever reason. That's when you normally hear or see that kind of thing. But it doesn't really apply in this case. Firstly, because this isn't a corporation. I'm not getting paid or anything like that. And this is nowhere near a manager. Like, this guy, to me, he's just a nobody, random shitter. And if you are paying attention to the rankings that I showed earlier for each raid, you would kind of have to struggle to find his name there. He's somewhere down there, but nobody can be bothered to scroll down that much, right? And at some point, either during the encounter or right after the encounter, I don't know, my guild tag disappears. In short, I get gkicked. Now, this, I suppose, is what some people might call a power trip when it comes to this guy, but there's a bit of a problem with that. You'd kind of have to have a bit of power in order to even consider calling this a power trip. But, you know, this guy had zero power as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, sure, he was some sort of, I don't know, caster officer or whatever, so there I am, gkicked, whatever. Who gives a shit? Like, the only thing this changed for me was that I would have to pug if I wanted to raid more. Actually, that's not much of a problem because the last time I checked, the random pug I'd go with would clear Serpent Shrine and Tempest Keep faster than the guild raid, so it's not a problem from that point of view. In addition to that, I would be obviously able to soft rest whatever the fuck I wanted. And as you could see earlier, some days, some raids, you just walk away with 5 serious upgrades. Granted, some other days you walk away holding your dick. It is what it is, it's how soft rest works. So, in my original looking for a guild post, which I have started this video with as well, I said I would want a soft rest guild. And in here, by the way, this is where we can see my guild tag disappearing at some point. Not quite sure where, but it's going to happen soon, because the dude got the message that we killed Phantom Lord, It's, the auto reply from DBM, and that's what happens. As soon as he got that, I assumed that shit made him rage or something, and you'll see my guild tag suddenly disappearing. Which, again, is absolutely fine as far as I'm concerned. Now, for me, this was not really an argument. Yeah, there you go, the guild tag disappeared. For me, this wasn't really an argument. For me, it's like you've cancelled the raid on Wednesday, the one I was signed up to. You moved it on Tuesday. I did not sign up for that, and I'm not going to be able to make it on Tuesday. So here I am bugging, so I don't waste the reset. That's all there was to it as far as I was concerned. Obviously, it's not all there was to it from the other side of the fence. As for rankings, because I mentioned that earlier, and I'm only doing this in the context of stuff that has been said before I joined the guild, as in we value attendance, which you could see at 100%, we value performance, and so on. Well, these are the rankings, and this is what they look like for just about every raid I attended with the guild. I would be about here, and then you'd have to scroll down quite a bit to find the caster officer, the guy doing things for my benefit mostly. Yeah, that's kind of what it looked like. Now, let's make this even funnier, I suppose. So this was the pug raid on the 15th of July, right? The one I joined with my Shadow Priest. And as you can see, this started around 7 o'clock. It ended, Guildless at least, it ended at 9, right? So 2 hours, let's say 2 hours and 7 minutes based on this. Let's see what the guild raid did. And the guild raid, having been moved to Tuesday, it started at 7:22, 22 minutes past 7, and it ended at 43 minutes past 9. So, but that is actually longer. It took longer than the pug. Before I continue, let me just add one thing here, because I realized that I kept saying that loot doesn't matter, didn't matter, it made no difference, and I kind of forgot to explain why, so I'm simply going to insert this brief segment between the rest of the segments to try to explain it. In short, my family and I are looking at moving to the US permanently. And because of that, raiding on European realms, on European servers would become pretty much impossible. You can't really do that. Even if you didn't give a shit about lag or whatever, stuff like that, you would be looking at a situation where you'd have to raid at something like, 11 in the morning US time. And I couldn't possibly do that unless I was terminally unemployed, right? Which is not something I intend to do. So because of that, this character, along with the entire account, will probably end up being abandoned fairly soon. So that's just another reason why loot and loot distribution didn't matter to me at all, why I did not bother arguing about stuff, why I didn't bother trying to bring this up, like, oh, but what about performance, attendance, and all the stuff you mentioned? Why did I not get prio on one item or another, and blah, 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 blah. I just didn't care. Whatever I would get now would be irrelevant, because in possibly 1 month, it won't matter. So yeah, I just wanted to clarify this part. The reason for which I didn't care about loot was that whatever I'd get now would be completely irrelevant 1 month from now. And, we have no intention of coming back. That's something I might discuss in a future video, but it's not the case in this one. I don't want to get political on this one. Now, let me try to explain one thing here. I'm not pulling up rankings or comparing raid times between a guild and a pug, any guild, any pug. in order to take a fat steaming dump all over what is now my ex-guild. It's not that. I'm just trying to set the context, if you wish, because if you were watching the stream, you could see that I had no reaction to it. I didn't even bother replying to the dude. I didn't try to clarify, explain, get him or the guild master to understand that, dude, I'm just gonna miss one raid because I'm fucking busy in real life and whatever. No, I didn't do any of that. And this is why. There was no point, as far as I could tell. Thinking about it, I didn't exactly stand to lose anything. So let me get this straight, right? I have 100% attendance. Performance is not something that anyone in the guild is able to discuss with me, because you could see the rankings. And apparently I'm not really getting any of the stuff I want, and I'm not complaining about it, and I'm not trying to, I don't know, change that in any way. I don't even give a shit about it. And that's still not good enough, because some caster officer is looking for an argument for a fight and has been looking for one for weeks. Like, if that's not, good enough, then I don't think I stand to lose anything by simply bugging without a guild tag, as you can see. Because at the end of the day, what's gonna happen? Oh, I'm gonna go with a pug, and we're gonna clear shit faster, and they're not going to get me saved for gruel, thus making me unable to join the typical Bacterian pug. And I can soft reserve anything I want, and if I get lucky, which happens once in a while, I can walk away with 5 best in slot items from a single raid, as I showed with my Warlock. That doesn't sound like much of a threat to me. That sounds like a pretty good time, to be honest. Because these guys, they don't expect any sort of attendance or performance from me. If I show up, fine. If I don't, they'll just get another guy, no problem. And I can join the next reset. I don't think any pug will have much of an issue with a player when they check the parses and see an average of whatever the fuck that was, 98 point something. So, but that's why I didn't bother talking to anyone about it. That's why I didn't try to fix the situation. That's why I just pretty much carried on ignoring the whole thing. It was completely meaningless to me, completely irrelevant. Like, oh wow, I got gkicked. Who gives a shit? I don't know, but it wasn't me. I couldn't care less about it. I showed my original recruitment post again when I said that I was looking for a soft reserve guild, not for a loot council guild. And like I said, saying that I would accept a loot council guild if the clear time was under 3 hours was a mistake. I shouldn't have gone with the loot council guild to begin with. It's not about loot distribution, don't get me wrong. I don't even give a shit about loot. My parses, the difference between a 98 and a 99 is not that one elusive piece of loot for me. It's whether we got a full raid, it's whether I get my totems placed, it's whether any retard dies to spout, and so on. That's it, it's not loot. So I don't really give a shit about that. But the problem with loot council guilds, and this has been the case for the past 20 years, every single loot council guild I've been in, they all have this sort of shitter. The sort of retard who thinks that some, I don't know, guild rank, whatever, caster officer, whatever the fuck that's supposed to be, means something. They have this sick need of feeling like they somehow matter, like they're important or whatever. I don't actually know what the problem is with them, or rather what their problem is. I don't know what the fuck caused it, but I have no intention of finding out, never mind actually fixing it. What I do know is that I don't much give a shit, because at the end of the day, the parses are there for everyone to see, the rankings are there for everyone to see. So, someone telling me, oh, I'm a caster officer. Yeah, no, you're a random retard. You're a random shitter. That's what you are, mate. It's like, the pieces you picked for your That's My Best list, they're not to my liking. I didn't ask. Like, who gives a shit about what you like? You're at the bottom of the rankings, bro. You know? So that's why I didn't say anything. That's why I didn't do anything. That's why it just, I don't know. That's why it was just completely irrelevant to me. Like, oh, great, I got gkicked, so now I have to, pug? Oh, wait, that's exactly what I'm doing. Oh, I've got the same fucking result or better because I'm in a pug. Okay, I suppose I can live with that. But yeah, that is the story of how I ended up guildless once again, and this time gkicked. There is another reason for which loot was completely meaningless to me, but that one touches a lot on the political side of things, as weird as that may sound. I'll probably cover that in a future video. Now is not the right time for it. So yeah, that's the story. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. I'm not trying to fix anything. I'm not trying to, I don't know, complain or look for justice or whatever. I am only creating and publishing this video for entertainment value, your entertainment to be exact. So yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed it. So have a good one and see you next time.